Good morning. It is Walter Bernardis from South Africa, Skyler Thomas in California, and we have a loaded show today. Going to start with some fun stuff and then get into some kind of, God, is depressing the right word? I don't want to scare everyone, but some very sobering stuff. Some news coming out of South Africa. Walter, how you
Yeah,
doing?
all good. Good evening, everybody. You're welcome to the show. Yeah, no, it's always depressing, seemingly coming out of South Africa. But anyway, let's hope to get the word out there and make some changes.
I'll give everyone a rundown. I'm going to show some deleted scenes from Jaws compared to the original scenes, and Jaws is a favorite movie of so many people, whether you think it was bad for sharks or not. And when I saw the deleted scenes, it actually I was like, oh, this explains the weird editing. And then I'm going to show my own footage from Guadalupe of the closest thing to Jaws' mouth underwater in my face. And I'm also going to share a brief moment from the research, or the lecture I went to last Thursday. And then we're going to get into what's taking place in South Africa, a little bit of what the Natal Shark Sport is doing, but mostly a new publication that came out from Manga Bay, assisted by one of the good researchers in South Africa, Enrico Gennari, and a scientist is actually trying to save the sharks instead of sell them out. And pretty disturbing what the fishing industry is being allowed to do down there. So, Walter, as part of our warm up, what are your feelings about the movie Jaws?
Well, brilliant movie. It scared the absolute shit out of me. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It built tension in the most clever ways that when you look into it and you have Steven Spielberg explain it to you, it's like absolutely amazing to the in depth they went to try and get a reaction out of you, and how it worked was absolutely amazing. But unfortunately for sharks, it wasn't so good, and really did them a disservice. And the ripple effects are even being felt today by having establishments like the Natal Sharks Board being able to exist just because of the fear that that movie helped create. So yeah, mixed feelings about that, but mostly bad feelings about yours.
Many years ago, I was I had on the television for no good reason one of the new dumb shark shows. I think I was maybe considering making fun of it as an episode, and my girlfriend says, "I don't understand how these movies scare people." I was like, "You haven't seen Jaws, have you?" She hadn't, and yeah, the beginning was enough for her. Uh, they You have to do it a certain way, which Spielberg accomplished.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Um, yeah, the shark. Again, this is an interesting little story that goes along with Jaws. Is maybe it helped the movie that the fake shark wasn't working very often, so that we didn't see how stupid it looked. Um, there are a couple of scenes that it doesn't look that dumb though, and that's included today.
Yeah, you gotta understand that you're looking when you look at it, you gotta look at it through the old eyes. You know, when did that movie come out?
75,
75.
six,
Yeah.
seven, eight.
So I mean, things looked a bit different to us back then. We weren't used to that kind of visual stimulus and to try and put it apart. You know, it looked very real back then.
June 20, 1975.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at uh, the original of two scenes that we're going to examine the deleted footage from. Pull that up and let me make this bigger. So, of course, this is when they're in the
Shark!
pond.
The shark!
Brody's kids in the pond.
Now what?
Michael's in the pond.
I better skip around a little bit.
Hey, you guys.
Okay.
You guys
Here comes
okay
the
over
problem.
there?
Next thing you know, he's in the water. They fall in the water for some reason. That shot looked pretty good to me.
Yeah. That is, even today, that is very good.
Even that one, they showed more of the
Oh, yeah.
shark. So I'm confused why later in the movie it looked like a piece of rubber that was melting, and right here it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you got to slow it down. No, it looks deadly, eh? My goodness.
Massive too. I mean,
Sure.
massive. I think that's more than a 25 footer. Quint calls it a 25 footer. I think that's a minimum of a 25 footer. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm not that experienced in great whites, but it looks like a very big shark. And when you say 25 footer, you got to speak in like proper language, in
Oh,
meters.
meters. Okay.
We
Well,
left
I'm gonna.
feet and inches behind with the medieval days. You guys got to catch up a bit.
Yeah. No, we went backwards. Yes, we will show the Kinter boy also. Sharks 365. A couple of
Even
things.
the water coming out of its mouth is like
Water coming out of his mouth.
lots of places. You see the water squirting out.
Oh yeah, let's look at that again.
That's like Jesus.
There.
That's
There's.
so well done.
But the way he goes down seems unnatural. Like I don't think he's maybe got a couple of fingers touching the shark's mouth. I don't think he's really getting pulled down like that. Something else is pulling him down, but that's not.
Okay,
That's really not.
let's watch. Let's watch.
I should have had that slow mo. And then his leg falls. His leg wasn't being bitten right there, but whatever. That's not really what I'm here to talk about. It's this part. Okay, so we've all seen that, and now I'm going to put the deleted parts. I'm going to skip past. Okay, so yeah, we never saw that angle in the movie.
No.
That's a big dorsal fin.
Wow. Yeah, that's a monster.
Still don't. I mean, did the kids just like were distracted and made the
Yeah,
boat
yeah.
lopsided? That's eerie.
Yeah,
That's definitely eerie. Almost the less you see, the better. Now that one I can buy that he's being pulled down. The other one, not so much. You can see the blood from shore. I don't think that's very realistic. Or is that the
that's
overturned boat?
That's the bottom of the boat with the blood.
I don't know. I was just thinking maybe I'm wrong.
Bottom of the boat.
You're right. You're right. Okay, we didn't see that angle. Or that. So, okay, so here's. Oh, yeah, obviously that's the. See, okay, so here's where it gets interesting. That shot of the shark, I guess, and like it's made to look like the shark is coming up to the boy, right? Or is
Right,
swimming past the boy.
right.
But that makes sense with this, which Spielberg says was actually just too much. Uh, the dead guy is like holding the boy as as life is leaving his body and the shark's propelling him through the water. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty gruesome. Have you seen this before?
Oh my God.
I mean, my God.
Yeah, no, no, that's a bit ridiculous. I'm glad he cut it out because that would have spoiled the movie for me. Like, because that is like, yeah, oh, they're gonna make us help me.
The guy's gurgling blood out of his mouth as he's holding onto the boy. And then he finally gets pulled under. But it, I say it helped the scene make more sense because the next thing you know, the boy is on shore in shock. And it's like, what exactly made him go into shock? Because he couldn't see what was happening from the distance that he was at. But if in fact a dead guy got pushed toward him as the shark swam by, yeah, that might
Yeah, yeah,
cause some shock.
yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just like replaying that scene in my head.
That's
But
disturbing, right?
no, no, it's brilliant. As I said in the beginning, absolutely brilliant. And when you put it like that, it actually does make a bit more sense to show it from the shark point of view. But just having a shark that size, obviously they saw the boat get knocked over. They could have seen from the surface because they must have been pretty close. The shark actually take the guy. So both ways make sense to me. But having the guy cradle the oak in the arms as he's dying, that was that was a bit no, like it's like unreal.
Oh, Walter stalled out. I'll read some comments. Honest Outer says strange. Yeah, I mean they made the call to cut it. As the shark is eating the guy, how does a dead guy grab someone? He wasn't dead; he was dying. But you know, which is almost more disturbing. Um, your question is good, Sharks 365. Like, was the shark eating him or dragging him? Well, it's like it's using its caudal fin to push through the water while it has food in its mouth, but it's not feeding behavior that I've ever witnessed. And let's hope Walter comes back. That South African internet and those rolling blackouts. Walter, you're just going to have to miss the analysis. So let's move on to the Kinter boy. Look at that. Again, how many people in the chat are glad they didn't show the shark to that extent? Because, I don't know. Our imaginations do the most damage, right? Oh, yeah. I'm really glad they didn't show that. Well, Walter, you're going to have to miss my Guadalupe footage. Less is always more with monsters, says an honest doubter. Yeah, I mean our brains pretty much handle the real horror, don't they? This is my footage from Guadalupe several years ago, before Guadalupe got uh, shut down. Let me pause it. I honestly wished they showed that. Oh, so we have a different opinion. Sharks 365 actually would have liked to have seen that part. Carpenter's The Thing is a good example. Alien as well. Often technical limitations forced it. And watch the right side, because a blimp is going to appear. That is the underbelly of just the head of a great white shark. It's unfortunate that somebody had their flash on like that. One of the problems of shark ecotourism is that you're sharing with humans. You see this guy down here, and the size of that shark with only the first portion of his body. Look at that mouth. You can see the gills on the other side showing through in this still frame, as the mouth only partially open. It's not even close. The shark's not even unhinging the jaw, and it's still big enough to put your head inside of. What do I reckon the age of the shark is? Look at those teeth. Yeah, sometimes they do bite the rope. I can't tell for sure if that's what's happening there. It might be. They keep changing the age estimates, how long they live, how long it takes to reach a certain size, how long it takes to reach breeding age. Like somebody moved it up to like 17 recently. 15 was old enough, but like the first I heard several years ago that people were agreeing upon was that they're not sexually mature until 15 years, 15 feet or more. This one is 17 feet, and a minimum, an absolute minimum of 20 years old. I'm not the person to say that. Could get in trouble. But considering that their growth slows down as much as it does as they get bigger, you got to remember, you're talking about putting on several 100 pounds per foot once they reach a certain size. Speaking of putting on pounds, they also temporarily put on a lot of pounds. And I'm going to show that scene from the lecture that I went to. So they named this shark Mr. Burns. This is out at the Farallon Islands. And the top image is Mr. Burns before eating an elephant seal.
We watched him eat like a 400.
And then they put on the screen
elephant seal.
45 minutes later.
Minutes, and then he looked like this.
what the shark looked
So
like.
he was rather
So they're capable of gorging.
and he was so
I'm back.
Jesus, dude, what happened?
Yeah, the internet just dropped. I had to go and get another router and set it up. And yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I'm back.
So what I'm showing is a shark at the Farallon Islands, and that's the same shark on the top and the same shark in the bottom, uh, within a 45-minute time period.
Sure. Now, well, what are you comparing, the size of the stomach or what?
Yeah, is it not very clear?
Yeah, well, it's the angle of the top photo is different to the angle of the bottom. If it is tilted slightly towards you, maybe hiding that stomach that it's got in that side view, full on side view.
Okay.
Eh? Doesn't look like the same shark, although it's got a white mark on it.
Okay. I'm going to show the Guadalupe shot again because you'll appreciate this. Got all these people in front of me, but he's with the people there. You get an idea of the size. And look at the guy in the corner because he's the closest one to it. He's trying to push it off with his GoPro so that it doesn't bite the rope, but it's too late. Well, look at the size of that thing, Walter.
No, it's a beast, eh?
Now watch its mouth. Again, the mouth is barely open, and if you look at the guy closest to the shark, he can stick his head in there.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
And as I
No,
said,
that's a big animal,
when you were offline, this shark's mouth is going to go 3 times bigger than that once the jaw comes unhinged. We don't get to see it because this is like, I call it casual biting. There we go. Now we can get your shoulders in there.
They bite any diver in half, that thing.
Yeah, without
No
trying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a big fish then.
That is a big fish. Oh, there we go. That's pretty big. See the gills on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Walter crapped all over the shark that gained 450 pounds, saying it was all camera angles. So I guess we won't talk about that anymore.
Sorry.
All right. Well, 25 minutes in. Let's get to the depressing part. Unless you want to say anything else about Jaws.
No.
So I'll set the mood by putting this up on the screen and making us smaller again. Well, the story doesn't change very much, does it?
I suppose it's the same story in the whole of South Africa. Wherever the government is taken over, whether it's the police force, the hospitals, or the law enforcement when it comes to regulating the fishing industry, they've absolutely failed the country and caused this type of thing to be able to be possible. You would say, how is it possible that in this modern day and age, like things like this are still going on? And yeah, it's a failed government, and obviously a failed fisheries department. They can't regulate what's going on in our waters.
Well, they can. They are making a weird decision not to. Um,
I suppose yeah, it's a conscious decision.
yeah. Planned failure. Uh, so, the scientists that helped with this article, and good for you, Manga Bay, being one of the few to talk about the truth of what's happening down there. But there's some key points. And last week, I spoke very briefly about the white shark's food source and that is, in fact, other sharks. And the reason that that's significant is when people are like, oh my God, where did the sharks go? It's like, well, if the food source is gone, I'm not sure why you would be surprised that the predator is gone. Which brings up that these boats are regularly via Fish Watch seen, tracked, fishing in marine protected areas, which is where the remaining white sharks are often seen. Obviously, food left, the sharks left. Sharks end up where there's food sources. Problem is that that's also where the fishermen are. And whether it's illegal or not doesn't really seem to matter because there's really no repercussions. This reminds me of other work that I've done where only citizens report violations. It's not the government officials or whoever's supposed to be doing it. And then you have to hope that once you report it, they do something about it. Which, let me jump to another flawed portion of this. After being found guilty of multiple violations, fishing in an MPA, chopping the heads and fins off of the sharks, which they're not allowed to do, catching the wrong sizes of sharks, not deploying the Tory lines that are supposed to reduce the catch of birds, things like that. After all of that, $150 fine. $150 fine. How the hell is that going to deter somebody? And there's a very important detail added to this. Those people were allowed to keep what they caught and sell it. So they more than made back the fine on the same catch that they were fined for. So tell me how regulation is going to work.
No, it's impossible. You just mentioned all the points that are absolutely wrong with this. Um, you know, they actually cut the heads and the tails off for two reasons. Number one, the shark is very difficult to identify after that.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the size of the shark is also difficult to ascertain because they are limited to, I think, a 70 minimum to 130 centimeter maximum.
Mm-hmm.
I know you won't understand that, but so cutting the heads and tails off makes it very difficult to be positive about those size parameters. And lastly, you can fit more catch in the
Right.
hold if its head and tail is cut off. And, as you can see, there's a hammerhead there.
Yeah.
And those are not supposed to be caught. So, but once the head and tail's off, who knows that it's a hammerhead anymore? You can't expect if we're going to find it difficult, as Enrico says, it's going to be almost impossible for the inspector to identify that as a banned catch,
Yeah, and people should appreciate the difficulty of the species identification at that point. Because even I had a moment where I was like, I wonder if a really, 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 really experienced shark biologist can tell the shark species, even without the head and the fins. Maybe someone out there can. Maybe. But certainly the inspector isn't going to. Which brings us to another point. There is no inspector.
Yeah. It's, it's a self-regulated industry. I mean, it's self-regulated, so you can say whatever you want to say, and it gets taken as fact, and nobody double checks you. Um, Brilliant system.
Oh, so we have a detail here. Hammerheads could be caught, but they should be released. This is going to send me off on a tangent of
Yeah,
the things that make humans feel better while they're doing terrible things.
yeah, yeah.
Just like how about just the it's okay as long as you bring them in with their heads and fins. I understand the reasons, but can we just stop and consider for a moment that this is where we are with the slaughter of animals? That go ahead and do it as long as you follow this rule and that rule and the other rule. But let's also consider that, as we talked about last week, what the Natal Shark Sport is catching um, by far and large, particularly in front of Durban, harmless hammerheads, which many species of hammerheads are endangered and protected. But, if you're doing it in the name of tourism, or if you want to be super emotional about it, protecting human life, you can kill whatever you want to kill and pretend that you're the good guys.
Yeah, they good. They certainly do a good job of that.
Oh my God, they have a camera on board, which the government is supposed to check. Wow, so
Yeah.
come on, come on.
Yeah. Nobody checks, obviously. Nobody even checks the tracking of the boat. If you go and have a look at how many times that same boat was in the MPA, I mean, over the last couple of years, what did that table say there? Something like 35 times it's been caught in the marine protected area, not like traversing through, but zigzagging, doing triangular shapes. That could only mean one thing. It's the other table that Enrico sent
Okay, let me.
us.
All right, I'll pull it up. This alone, though, I mean, look at the shoot. Got to zoom in on that. You look at the red line
Yeah.
there, and the vast majority of that red line is MPAs.
Yeah.
I interviewed a fisherman many years ago who pointed out. Listen, I'm not saying MPAs are bad, but there's a problem inherent when there's no regulation, because people who are willing to obey the law are the ones who aren't going to go in the MPA. For everyone else, it's like, oh, goody, more more fish for us to violate the law with.
Yeah. So this is a problem, and unfortunately, the government scientists are basing their assessment of how endangered these two species are, the soup shark and the smooth hound shark, based on the returns of these very same people. So the data they're getting is inaccurate. They're making an inaccurate assessment. And when it was proposed by, I think it was CITES, to get them on the Appendix 2 of the banned list for sharks, they said that no, the industry is alive and well. And
Right.
that would have put the soup fin as the overexploited, and they put the smooth out as sustainable
That's
based
insane.
on based on the data that these people have given them. So uh,
I got how discouraging is that for scientists when you finally get some data that maybe you can use to affect change, and the people who are the violators can just say, "Nah, we're going to change that data."
yeah, and get taken as fact. And that's crazy.
But
It's crazy.
listen,
They had the opportunity to do the right thing. when it was recommended to put these sharks on the endangered list. And they turned it down. And as I said, they turned it down because of this incorrect data that was supplied by the villains kind of thing. And
Is this the one that
yeah,
you wanted to see?
no, it was just a table of the MPAs and the number of times that vessel had been in the MPA over the past year. There it goes. So if you have a look, 24, 25, that same vessel, Zanet, has been in the MPA 24 times. In the 2017 to 21, that Suiram was in the MPA 115 times. So what does that tell you?
115 times.
Yeah. So, I mean, all those boats, because of their infringements, haven't been given fishing rights. They haven't been given a long lining permit. And the only boat with a permit is the Zanet at the moment. And that's why all the others don't have a return for 24, 25. Only the Zanet does. And you can see in the that year, it was in the MPA 24 times. And
And
now they're looking at, because of the data supplied by Zanet, they're looking at reinstating another 3 permits. So, well, what chance do these sharks really have?
there's a detail here, just for clarification. It's not just times they entered the MPA, times they were confirmed to be fishing inside the MPA. Just in
Right,
case, just in case anybody's looking for an escape route. Like, oh, you can't be mad that a fishing boat went through an MPA. No, these are times confirmed as fishing in an MPA.
right.
I'm sure you've seen it. Have you not seen
And
it take place?
no, not here. We are on the south coast, KwaZulu-Natal south coast, maybe nearly 2,000 kilometers away from Mossel Bay, maybe, yeah, 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers away. So, yeah, no, these guys have been getting away with murder.
So, more details. This is provided. The data comes from Global Fishing Watch. This can be confirmed by anyone who wants to go and check. And these are just the main demersal shark line vessels in the last 5 to 6 years. What is Huram? I think that's the name of a boat. What were we talking about earlier?
Yeah, yeah. That boat, Suriam. Those are Marianne, the White Rose, Suriam, and Zanet are the 4 boats that used to have the long lining permit. And as of 24, the Zanet was the only one that got issued with a permit. And that boat has been in the MPA fishing 24 times. That's confirmed. So who knows how many times it's really
I'm a,
been.
I'm mean like this. If you're a South African and you see this boat, don't think kindly of it, and don't think kindly of Fisherman Fresh. But that's not to say that you should embrace the others either. These are just the small ones that I think that's maybe a bigger takeaway. This is what the damage of smaller fishing vessels was astonishing.
Yeah.
And so if we go back to the old days, which may or may not have had been triggered by Jaws, but when people went on the rampage of killing white sharks, Rodney Fox told me when he went, he's a famous shark bite survivor, and when I sat down with him, he talked about how the initial reaction was, well, maybe we need to get rid of these animals, and maybe I need cages with these animals, but catching them was not very hard, and that really made him be like, geez, we've only been out here for an afternoon and we wiped out 6 of these sharks. But the real point I'm trying to get to is that a preferred shark used while baiting these animals was the smoothhound.
Yeah.
One of the sharks that's targeted by these fisheries.
Right.
How
So,
are people going to separate the potential of damaging the white shark population by either catching a white shark directly or removing a food source that's proven through history to be something that they like to eat? So much so that it was used by fishermen who wanted to catch and kill white sharks. But suddenly we're going to just be like, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure that's not having any impact on the white shark population.
I think both those statements are applicable at the same time. They are wiping out the food source, and they are having a huge impact by the bycatch and of great whites on our tourism industry. We used to be the capital great white shark diving destination in the world, and today, spot the great white and you win a farm on Elof Street, you know?
Mm. Which brings us to another point. Scientists go through so much work to get an animal listed as endangered or critically endangered, and then some fisheries are allowed to target animals that are in that category, even if they're anywhere near that category. The idea that you're allowed to target, not accident, target animals that are anywhere near that list. And then you have South African, the government scientists, we're calling them the government scientists, defending this. Shark scientists defending fisheries that violate every aspect of their permit. Every aspect of it, they're guilty of violating. And shark scientists in South Africa are defending it. Many of whom you'll see on Shark Week, many of whom are pushing the blame the orcas narrative. I find that unforgivable personally.
Well, they've sold their souls to the dark side, you know. They're willing to say anything to defend their income and their position. So, you know, and their position is basically the orca and no, the Natal Sharks Board, you know, absolutely has no impact on our great whites at all. So, yeah, crazy setup, but that's the way it is. Like you'll get Trump supporters and you'll get anti-Trump supporters. You know, um, both. You know, I don't. Look, that's not quite the same. Okay, the one
Don't go there. Don't go there.
that-
I've made a serious effort not to go there today.
yeah.
But you know, the Tory lines not going out reminds me of the Natal Sharks board and the putting the dolphin pingers on the nets.
Yeah.
All these ways to decorate horror with jewelry. It's like, oh, it's not as ugly as it looks. Look what we're doing to try to make our eradication of the ocean a little bit nicer. And then once again, you find out not only was it, in my mind, just something marketing wise to make consumers feel better about continuing to engage in something bad, but they aren't even doing it. And why would they? Again, why would they? What's the punishment? When you get in trouble, even if you get in trouble, which is a miracle in itself, you get a $150 fine
And you keep the catch anyway.
and you keep the
There's,
catch
there's no
anyway.
deterrent at all.
And the size thing, you know, part of
Size and species.
size and species. I mean, again, hey, we're not doing anything wrong as long as we only kill the ones that look like this or like this. So humans in their wisdom have decided that leave the sharks that are right smack in the middle of their life cycle alone, and we're not doing anything wrong. And even if you buy into that, when you're chopping the heads and fins off and nobody's checking what you're bringing in. I'm sorry, this is too absurd to even finish a sentence.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing more you could say about that, really. No,
People wonder
no,
why
no.
I'm so mad at
You
Shark Week.
know, I told you a long time ago. The only way we can stop it, the only way, is to stop buying fish.
Are you
You know,
going to,
like
though?
yeah, but you know, like Jaws put the fear of God into people about sharks. You know, maybe something's going to happen to put the fear of God into people about eating fish. Like I know even Mercury didn't get it right, but although it's true, you know, I mean, what is going to stop people buying fish? We in that ocean is really. I fear for it at the moment.
Well,
There,
this is
it's
this is one of the reasons I stopped. Like I don't know if Sharks 365 was trying to make this point or what you put on your toast in the morning. Well, not what I put on my toast. I haven't had an animal product since the last time I was in South Africa. That was the last time I went on a animal consuming binge because, and I've been done since then, and here I am, alive and healthy. An honest doubter says, didn't they basically fish out abalone and NorCal? Well, who is they? There's again, we're guilty. We're guilty of allowing other countries to come in and do things while we pat ourselves on the back of maybe not doing it. But yeah, there's a lot of problems with the fisheries here in the United States. Also, I'm certainly not pointing fingers only at South Africa, but we
the ocean
do.
in general. We
Yeah,
we we are.
South Africa has a particular issue with a poster species, the white shark, disappearing as a direct result of just insane violations. Poachers and legal fishers, and yeah, we're mostly closely related to frugorious simians. Yeah, I mean, we are. If you smile and think that you look like a wolf or a shark, you're lying to yourself. But I get it. It's hard to give up something that you have consumed for the better part of your entire life.
Yeah. And look, I believe if you kill it, you catch it, and you eat it, it's no problem. But as soon as you sell it, there starts the problem. That's, I mean, yeah, it applies especially to our fish industry because we're not just fishing the ocean; we're actually mining that ocean. We uh, we are mining it. We are wiping it out in record time. I think you mentioned last time as well. The bycatch to catch ratio is like something absolutely crazy, like 1:10. So every ton of prawns you've got, there's 10 ton of bycatch. And you know, if you see the footage of them dumping that bycatch, it's absolutely horrific. What's in there? It's everything, and it's all dead.
Absolutely. And what do those industries do to counter that? Marketing campaigns. Oh, we're going to put out tory lines, or oh, we're going to fish at a different depth, to try and
Um,
target. Therefore, we'll catch more of the targeted species, which brings me back to guess what? Two of the targeted species in this particular discussion we're having are threatened species. How are you targeting threatened species?
Yeah, no. I mean, I forget now the year that they proposed um, to put them on the Appendix 2 of the CITES endangered and critically endangered um, list. It's probably around 2019, I think. So that was like quite a few years ago, 6 years ago, and we still haven't done it. We refuse to do it, and as Enrico points out, that was the ideal time to do it because not only was it a small industry, and it didn't impact the jobs of those people because those boats had multiple permits, not only for long lining of the soup fin and the smooth hound, but they had other permits they could, keep going, and they didn't do it, and it had of no value to the South African market because we don't eat it. It's all exported to South America apparently, and Australia as fish and chips. And on top of that, it had a huge impact on our tourism
Hmm.
um, market. So it was a win-win for everybody, but somehow we didn't catch the ball. We dropped the ball again, at the 11th hour. So what a pity, man. What a pity that we didn't do the right thing.
Indeed, indeed, and what a pity that the shark scientists aren't even on the right side of history. Or some of them are. But
Well, some of them are.
I go back to the marketing because you pointed out that a lot. Yeah, what's another marketing campaign that I hear a lot to justify doing things that might be bad, and that's, oh well, we're supporting locals and the local economy and people got to eat. But as you pointed out, no, this is about commodities and shipping it off.
Yeah, no, it was the perfect way to put us on the map, and protecting the species that are endangered and critically endangered, and put us on the right side of history for once. And as I said, we dropped the ball for all the reasons that I mentioned.
South Africa being the first country to protect or to list, I'll say list the white shark as a protected species was, that's something that sounds good. That's worth bragging about.
Yeah,
But if it's empty calories, it's empty calories. I'm going to read a couple of things from the article that I think are worth mentioning, the publication. But before that, we have another insight here from someone knowledgeable. Actually allowing targeted threatened species is against the national legislation, NEMBA, National Environmental Management Biodiversity Act. Well, so let's add it to the
unless
list of violations.
yeah, unless I
Seemingly
think we
endless.
better add somewhere there with everything in South Africa, unless you've got a permit. If you got a permit, there's a hell of a lot of things you can do that
Yeah.
are illegal otherwise.
I mean, look at Osage. Get a permit to go fishing for an animal that was protected from being fished for.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Shark Taz says it's always about the money. No one does anything because it's inconvenient. And Walt, this leads me back to something you said. If you go out and kill it yourself, or you fish for it yourself, um, you don't have a problem with it. And maybe on a level, I sort of do. But you have a great point. If you're going out and getting it, you're not catching it in the tonnage, which is what is listed in this article. It's human beings are raping the ocean, and they're not raping it to solve food problems. They're not raping it so that they can get something in their own stomachs. They're raping it for money. And
Yeah,
by the way, we're becoming insanely obese and unhealthy. Maybe if you went spear fishing, you'd burn off some calories while you go out and get your own food. So I would have to, if I have to choose, yes, let's go Walter's route. Go catch your own food, and as many animals die, it's going to be not in the tonnage, I think.
yeah,
Stocks of where is it? The department estimated annual catches at between 100 tons and 200 tons in 2019. And that's just soup fin sharks. That's one species. We got a 100-ton differential there. That's pretty big.
Yeah, yeah. That was an estimate. You know what I mean? That's an estimate.
I
That
can't.
is so
How many people
hilarious.
can even really picture 100 tons of corpses?
Yeah, 100 tons. Well, how much? What does an elephant weigh? Like maybe 2 tons, or
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
like 50 elephants, like piled up. Maybe that'll give you a better idea. And it's all 100 elephants. It's 50 or 100 elephants, but somewhere between there. That's estimated catch. As a friend of mine, was saying that it's like uh, with the Natal shark board. Going back to that now, um, and them catching the great whites. It's like us saying, well, the lions in the national park are dangerous. What we'll do is we'll go and put some snares out there and actually bait the snares and then kill some lions. And then, they'll be less dangerous for the people visiting the national parks. It's like,
Which brings us back.
yeah.
Well, the other thing, we'll get into it more, I think, maybe next week, since there's so much to cover with the Manga Bay art publication. But the other piece of news that recently came out is the Natal Sharks Board adding more nets and drumlines when they've been bragging about reducing nets and drumlines. This is one of their marketing campaigns. Oh, we've been striving to reduce. You're doing the opposite. I
Yeah.
mean, just
Well,
violations of.
they do say they're going to remove it from a less used beach and put it at Tinley Manor, which is going to become a more popular beach. So, by their own admission, by that statement, is that they've got nets at beaches that are there actually of no use to anybody. It's beaches that aren't being utilized as bathing beaches, like Ungababa is not being utilized as a bathing beach. Um, so,
Aren't those,
you know,
isn't Unga Baba what was included in my documentary when we went down and it was just like shreds of a net just sitting there
no,
that they.
no, that was at Scopra. Yeah, that was at Scopra.
Let me, I want to get into ecology a little bit here. Um, as I go back to reading this article. In 2019, South Africa's Fisheries Department found that populations of smoothhound sharks have declined by 30% since the early 1990s, when 30 permits for commercial shark longline fishing were issued. While the number of vessels licensed to fish for species like smoothhounds or for pelagic sharks in the open water farther out was soon reduced to 23 and eventually to 6, according to who? But sure, let's go with it. Stocks continued to fall. The DFFE's 2019 assessment suggested reducing the annual catch of smoothhounds to below 75 metric tons would be necessary to allow the populations to recover. Wow, how generous of us to reduce the rapage to 75 metric tons. Soupfin sharks are widely distributed and historically just as widely targeted by fishers in all major oceans and the Mediterranean and South Africa, where fishers have targeted this shark for more than a century. Populations are estimated to have decreased by more than 90% over the past 3 generations, according to the IUCN. Here's my point. Humans like to say, oh, look how many there are. There's not a problem. If there were that many back then, guess what? Something was making use of them. They weren't there waiting for humans to catch on that there was something to come and slaughter. There was a thriving, healthy ecosystem out there supporting other populations of animals, including, but not limited to, the ones you care about, such as the white shark.
Yeah,
There's my
exactly.
there's my rant. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it was part of their food source. That was for sure. And as mentioned earlier, we are eliminating that food source. Um, so obviously that the great white don't have that food source anymore, and will move to where maybe find an area that they do have that food source. And number two, in removing that food source, you are catching those great whites as bycatch. Um, and as was mentioned in that by the Daily Maverick, I believe, Enrico was telling me, where that whole catching of great whites as bycatch was exposed.
Yeah, yeah. Even when they tried to prove that it wasn't happening, it blew up in their face. They caught one in the 3 days that they went out to prove that it wasn't a problem. And what happened to that information? An honest doubter says striving is the nicest possible way to say failing.
Nice one.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the other point I wanted to make about the sorry to jump around a bit like this, but I'm
Go
back
ahead.
to the shark board. With the Tinley Manor installation, was that they go to great lengths to, number one, say that it's a very robust beach with waves of bigger proportions than anywhere else on the coastline. And the only system that's going to work is the long line, is the gill net and the drum line method, and haven't even considered the shark safe barrier, which has been proved to actually be able to stand up to the conditions that we have on our coastline. And more importantly, the people that have instigated um, this whole move was this big Club Med. What is it called? Um, Club Med.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't know
they are.
the tourist thing.
Yeah, they're the ones that are building the big like tourist hub down there, and
Yeah.
it's there. They are the ones that want obviously the safe bathing um, at Tinley Manor,
Wow. Wow.
and they're the very same people that will not accept their divers to be in any artificially baited scenario with sharks. But they're quite happy to have their beaches baited so their tourists can go and have safe bathing, which I find a bit strange. Um,
Just a bit.
yeah, no, because they approached us to be one of their suppliers to take their divers out and show them sharks. And I said, well, the way we show people sharks is by using a little bit of bait to bring them in. Absolutely no. That is an artificial setup, and we want no part of it. And but yeah, you can put drum lines in our beach. Thank you very much for that. We're quite happy with that scenario. Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know if it's been brought to the attention of the directors uh, exactly what a drum line is and what those gill nets really are, those curtains of death, because they might have a change of heart.
Can I
Um,
just say how disappointing it is that someone who's in charge of a project like that doesn't bother to find out such
I
basic
don't know if
details?
he hasn't bothered to find out, but it's very very glaring the juxtaposition of those two things.
You're talking
That's for
about the old policy of you can bait to kill, but not bait to view, which is not limited to there. I
yes,
know
well,
Jim Abernethy might be the first person who talked about it to me. It's the case in places in Florida where people want to say that ecotourism is going to teach sharks to eat people, but they have no problem with fishermen baiting sharks
yeah,
because the plan is to kill things. And same thing up in Rhode Island when I was doing the blue sharks up there. They have a you get in trouble if you're baiting the water to show people sharks. But
yeah.
if you were to follow that up by killing the sharks, then You're good.
100%. No problem.
Australia, South
Um,
Africa.
that's the same problem here. We have the same mindset. There's no logic to it. But you know, people might say like, "Oh, okay, what we're doing, it's wrong." We shouldn't be using bait to attract sharks. And no, I get that. But the only way we can change opinions of people, and I see it on a regular basis, is by bringing them in contact with sharks and showing them that they're not these mindless killers, and that'll change their opinion. And next time there's a petition or something, guaranteed those people will sign that for the shark, whereas in the beginning maybe they wouldn't have. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, we stop baiting. Whatever criticism there are about baiting or maybe interfering with a natural behavior or whatever, sure. When humans stop slaughtering the planet, then we'll stop ecotourism. Because you're right. It's not a cop out when you say that it's a powerful way to change people's minds because nothing works better than seeing sharks. Nothing works
that's
better than seeing sharks.
100%.
And there are some natural aggregation sites where you can see sharks without baiting, but they're pretty rare.
Yeah, sure. We have the raggies here, which is a pretty fearsome looking shark and is absolutely harmless to humans.
Yeah.
Maybe no one alleged raggy shark attack on a surfer in Setswana, but very rare that a raggy um, is involved in any shark attack at all.
Hold on, we
And
got to talk about that story.
eh?
Can you picture a raggy attacking a surfboard? I can't even
No,
picture a
it
raggy
was
hunting at the
very strange.
surface.
The paddler was paddling out, and as he stuck his hand in the water, it got taken by a shark,
So he's
and
right
then
next to the shore. It's very shallow. He's
very shallow, very
okay.
yeah, maybe the only way they identified it was by the bite marks, I think. So I don't quite know how it was identified as a raggy, but that's what the report was. Yeah,
Boy, in the old days, though, the fishermen liked to brag about catching those raggies because they look scary. But as if anyone's ever dove with a raggy, you know you're swimming up to a floating balloon and shooting it in the head. I mean, it's pretty despicable to think that you're a tough guy for killing a raggy shark.
yeah, no, yeah. It's like shooting cows. Not very challenging.
Well, geez. I mean, this is some interesting stuff. Uh, I'm glad there's some exposure taking place in South Africa. How far will they get when the government has their own shark scientists defending a fishing industry that violates every aspect of their permits? um, we appreciate the scientific knowledge that we were provided with today. Appreciate the people that watched. I don't know. Maybe this is enough depressing stuff for one episode until next week. But I'll certainly allow you to get in the final thoughts, Walter.
Whew. Yeah. Um, no, no, but it's bad news all around. Absolutely bad news all around. And luckily, we've got scientists that are willing to stand up and say the right thing, like Enrico, and point out, uh, you know, I was a deputy headmaster for 20 years at a high school,
Hmm.
and my headmaster always said to me, always when you see something being done that's wrong, go to that person and tell them.
Hmm.
Tell them that they're doing the wrong thing. And sometimes it's very difficult to do that. And Enrico has stood up and done the right thing and pointed it out to the government. Unfortunately, the result of that was just a slap on the wrist, but
Yep.
guaranteed that guy's looking over his shoulder from now on. And the people in charge of the fisheries have had the spotlight put on them, and maybe we'll do a bit more credible policing from now on.
Let's make this bigger. This is Fisherman Fresh and the Zanetta boat. And if you ever see these things, you should have negative associations in your mind.
Yeah.
And while it may be challenging and discouraging to do the right thing, the message at the end of the day here is it's still the right way to live your life. Do what you can.
Yep.
And go see some sharks, everyone. Go see some sharks. Walter, I'll see you next Thursday.
All good. Thanks very much. Thanks for all the comments, everyone that watched, and see you next Thursday. Thanks, Skyler.
All right.